is going on, guys? This is the Combat Source Podcast. My name is Josh. Episode number 3, and it is May 24th, a Tuesday afternoon, 2022. And I want to first start off this podcast, but it's a tough one. You know what I mean? It's about 4:30 in the afternoon here in the LA area. It's been a busy day. Been doing things all day, and just really wanted to get this episode out today, and really wanted to touch base on some of the things that happened this past weekend and what we got coming up, because it's a pretty exciting weekend, and I'm looking forward to it. On a somber note, I guess it's pretty much another tragic day in this country. You had 14 children killed in an elementary school in Texas, 1 teacher and 1 gunman. I mean, what can you say about these things, man? This country the politics in this country and the priorities we have. I mean, I don't even know where to answer this and what the right answer is, other than it's just a tragedy. And as a parent myself, it's scary, you know what I mean? It's scary that this stuff still continues. I don't see an end to it. The politics in this country are just, man, they got their priorities in a mix. And I mean, to come up with simple middle of the road solutions to help both sides out, whatever, you know what I mean? I think for the most part, it doesn't matter which side on the political spectrum you are. I think the safety of yourself and the safety of your children are top priorities. And I mean, even in a state like Texas, where it's a pretty loose in terms of their rules and regulations when it comes to especially firearms. Stuff like this happens. So I don't know, man. This is pretty sick situation and pretty sad day. It's tough to do an episode like this when you have you're bombarded with this on your phone and on TV, and it's just a reminder that things can happen pretty quick. Bad things can happen pretty quick. So you just always got to be prepared. Educate yourself, educate your children, and try to live each day, man. No one's gonna look out for yourself, for you, other than yourself, or better than yourself, or that includes your kids. So always keep that in mind. But let's get to some of the stuff in the world of combat sports. We had a lot going on last week. A couple of boxing exhibition fights. You had a couple of boxing fights. You had the Charlo brother competing. You had UFC. You had a couple of MMA events. You had Eagle FC. So I guess there's a lot to get to. Let's see. Caitlin Vieira versus Holm, I think, was a big event over the weekend. We'll get to that card pretty soon, but I wanted to touch base on some of the other cards. You had one championship, had an event. This was over in Singapore. It was a, typical one championship event. Nothing much to talk about. You do have one star that came out of that event. I didn't want to touch base on this. I think she's somebody to look out for. And let me pull up her name. Her nickname is Wonder Girl, but it's Gervonta MT. She competed this past weekend. I mean, she's definitely a talent. Comes from the world of Muay Thai. And then she had a pretty solid win over the past weekend. Let me see here. She fought Zeba Wushu, and this was on. Trying to pull up the information on their card. This was kind of like a mixed Muay Thai, mixed MMA bout, but I think her fight really stood out because I think the promotion's really pushing her. She's an attractive girl. She's like her. It's Nat Jarunsak. Nat is her first name. Jarunsak, and she fought Zeba Bano, who's That was her. Yeah, it was a mixed martial arts fight. So yeah, the event, which took place in Singapore. Yeah, not really. Jesus Christ. Okay, 1, 2, 3. What's going on, guys? This is the Combat Source Podcast. My name is Josh. It is May 24th, a Tuesday afternoon, 2022, and I just wanted to thank you guys all for joining me. This is episode number 3. Before we get started here, I just want to give I mean, it's a tough day to do an episode. I would say that because as a parent, I'm sure coming back and listening to this episode, you can see that in Texas, an elementary school we had a mass shooting in an elementary school over in Texas, which the suspect is an 18-year-old high school student at the nearby high school and decided to go into the elementary school and shoot up 14 students, children, kids, babies, and one teacher. And I mean, I think the gunman himself is deceased at the moment, and just unfortunate. Tough day to do an episode, especially if you're a parent such as myself. But, I don't want to get into the politics of this thing. I mean, this kind of stuff is unfortunately probably still going to keep happening. This country doesn't learn. This country has their priorities a little bit mixed up in terms of gun control. And, I mean, just basic level stuff. It's an unfortunate situation, unfortunate circumstances, and it's a tough day to do an episode. I assure you that. We had a lot to cover. We had a lot of events, a lot of fights last weekend. We have plenty to get to for this coming weekend. I think it's a pretty exciting weekend for combat sports. Definitely in the boxing realm, for sure. I think that's the biggest event with Davis and Romero. I think I'm been watching some of the Showtime stuff on kind of like the documentary series that they have going on this fight, and it just gets you pumped up. It's just really even more so than just the fight itself. But let's look at this past weekend. You had one championship, had an event. Shout out to one championship fighter in particular. I thought she definitely stole the show this past weekend. Her name is Nat Gervonta. She fought on the event this past weekend, which was a mixed Muay Thai MMA event. I thought she performed extremely well, and I thought she did a really good job, and I thought the fight overall was pretty entertaining. She's also not bad looking too, so give that shout out to her. But 157 was past weekend. One championship also had an event. Elise Anderson competed, so winner by submission in the main event. You had Eagle FC, which had it was the Eagle FC 47, which had Jorgen Castro and Junior Dos Santos in the main event. You had Hector Lombard versus Diego Silva. You know, Maki Pitolo. You had Andrew Sanchez, Gabriel Checo. You had Ahmed Aliyev, Islam Mamadov, Daryl Horcher, Zach Zane. You had a couple of people on this card. Eagle FC is doing their thing. I really don't even. I don't. I'm gonna be honest. I did not watch the card. Caught the highlights. Eagle FC has yet to draw me in terms of a fight card, in terms of even a main event. The only one that even had piqued my interest slightly was Kevin Lee versus Diego Sanchez, even then that matchup wasn't really that exciting. From what I saw, it was a little bit more competitive than a lot of people expected. This fight, Hector Lombard and Thiago Silva, which is a big throwback right there. That didn't go well. I think there was a legal strike by Thiago Silva on Hector Lombard. I believe it was a kick or a knee to the head of a downed opponent. It wasn't that bad, but you know how those things go. Ended up with no contest. You have Jorgen Castro defeating Junior Dos Santos, and that was, I would have labeled that a no contest as well, because the fight, from what I saw, Junior was doing pretty well, and then he threw a punch and dislocated his shoulder. No fault of his own. I mean, it is what it is. Injury in the cage, and it's nothing that Jorgen De Castro really did to win. You know what I mean? So to give him the win, I thought that was a little messed up. But this is another step for Junior Dos Santos, and in the wrong direction, I guess. You know what I mean? In terms of his career, he did put out a lot of comments in interviews before this fight, saying that he felt that the release from the UFC, he felt saddened by it. The fact that he felt discarded by the UFC, and then unfortunately, someone in his position, not a lot of drawing power, not a lot of negotiation power, older in age, heavyweight. I mean, unfortunately, that's the name of the game, right? Hopefully, Junior gets another step back at this, but yeah, this just wasn't his night. Looked good though. Looked good. The UFC Fight Night, Holm versus Vieira. I thought that was I pretty much watched this entire card. I thought fights overall, I thought were pretty interesting. Nothing really blew my mind on this card. I thought the card overall was pretty good. You had Chase Hooper picking up a win, Jonathan Martinez. You had Joseph Holmes. You had Junior Park, Tapatahisi, Chidi Nijikawani, and you had Michelle Piera and Caitlin Vieira all picking up victories for UFC Fight Night 206. And this was held at the Apex. This was this past Saturday, and I thought overall the card was entertaining. It was a good card. It was a fun card. Not a lot of drawing power, not a lot of interest in terms of even for the main event. Holly Holm at her age, only having lost to some of the top of the division, I thought for the most part she looked good. Now let's get into this fight, all right? So the big controversy with this fight is the judging. I think a lot of people felt that Holly Holm actually won the fight. I think she was the far busier fighter. I agree with that. As far as damage goes, and being putting the other opponent in dangerous and fight-ending positions, I thought Caitlin Vieira did a little bit more in that direction. I think the judges were, and that's what I think the judges counted more so, damage and fight-ending situations in terms of Caitlin Vieira putting Holly Holm in dangerous spots. Holly, I think, did enough to probably get the victory. I won't say it's a complete robbery, but I could see a case for both. I would have leaned it more towards Holly Holm. I thought she was the far more active fighter. Even though her punches or kicks, her ability to control the cage and control the fight, although not necessarily damaging or dangerous for Vieira, I thought kept her nullified enough to give her the round or the rounds in question. Unfortunately for Holly, she's 14-6 now. She's around 40 years old, I believe, or around that age. If not a little bit older. She's got maybe one fight left on her contract. I'm thinking that she's probably going to lean more towards fighting out her contract and then calling it a day in the mixed martial arts and heading back to boxing to finish up the last of her competitive career. That's where I see Holly Holm going after this. I think a lot of her peers are on their way out. Nunes, obviously Misha Tate is trying to make a comeback. You have other people outside of the division, outside of the company, like in Bellator and PFL, that can give that are good matchups for her. But I don't see her not being a UFC fighter. So unfortunate night for Holly. I thought it was, I thought she put a good effort. Could she have done more? Yeah. I mean, if she could have landed more kicks, more damaging kicks, I thought would have been, something that I think would have swayed the judges. A little bit more hand combinations, maybe a little bit more damage up against the cage, which she had Vieira a lot. I don't know. She did a lot. Did she look? I'm wondering if she, some people said she looked old. I can see that. I can see her looking old in this fight, slowing down just a little bit. Even in her last performance. I mean, she's reaching that age. You know what I mean? These girls that she's fighting now are young, and she's big, athletic, experienced enough to fight them off. And she's almost like the Arlovsky, but with a way better record. I mean, for being in the UFC for as long as she has, I mean, a 14-6 record, I would expect her to have more of a record, a longer record. But it's kind of strange to see that she's only 14-6 for competing as long as she's had. Ketlen Vieira, though, I thought she looked decent. She looked good. She didn't look like that she was gonna win the title tomorrow. I can assure you that. But with the state of mind and this at this point in her career where Nunes is, and with a challenger or the title holder with Pena, those two aren't looking that good right now either. So does Ketlen actually have a chance to be a champion? Yeah. She's a good size. She's athletic. She's experienced. She's tough. She's durable. She knows what she's doing in all areas. Yeah, I can see her putting up a good fight against Amanda Nunes. I could see her putting up a good fight against Pena. But those girls are specialists. You know what I mean? Like Nunes has serious power and striking with her hands, especially for that division. And then you have Pena, who's a fantastic wrestler and is durable. So, I wouldn't mind seeing it. I wouldn't mind seeing Vieira, fight for the title. I'm sure she's like number one contender. I haven't looked at the rankings just yet and see where she lies, but she's got to be up there. She's 28 and I think she's 13-2 right now. So it's a tough night as far as judging goes. I mean, what can you say? What can you say? We've seen this time and time again. I mean, a little bit more transparency with the commissions. Maybe having open scoring. Maybe giving the judges or one representative of the judges, a chance to speak after a fight or a main event, and having the media being able to question them, ask them questions, see what they saw in each round. That would be interesting. I think make the post-fight stuff extra fun, but the commissions like to keep a lot of that kind of stuff behind closed doors. So there's really not a lot of accountability in terms of judging, scoring. And what's tough with MMA and it's tough is that a lot of tweaks and adjustments in terms of the judging criteria can be found in different states. Some states, asks for two hands to be a downed opponent, one hand to be a downed opponent. You name it. There's small little adjustments like that in different states to where what they consider a foul, what could they consider a dominant round, what they consider a 10-10, a 10-9, a 10-8, a 10-7. So it's tough. It's tough for a fighter. It's tough for their coaches and judges, and their coaches to give them accurate information. But that's why it's important for, I think, coaches in the corners of each of these fighters in each round to give an accurate assessment as who has to how they feel the fight's going, how they feel the round went. Because when you're just talking up your fighter, giving them a pep talk, giving them positive information, and not giving them actual factual information as to how the fight's going, a lot of times you run the risk of not getting the most out of them and not getting the most out of their performance, and when you need them to. So let me see. You had Michelle Piera defeating Santiago Ponzinibbio by winner of split decision. I thought Piera looked pretty good. He's super big for the division, super talented, super athletic. My own gripe about Piera is that I think he's still trying to find the balance of being an exciting finisher and a mature, calculated fighter. I think he's still trying to find that balance. And you're starting to see him grow a little bit as a fighter. I don't see him winning the title tomorrow, but I see him a couple fights away, maybe from a number one contender spot. Maybe give him a couple of top of the division fighters, a couple more top 10 fighters. I think he'll see where he's at, see what he can do. A spectacular finish or two against one of those. Who knows? I wouldn't mind seeing it. Michelle Piera against Gilbert Burns. Michelle Piera against Jorge Masvidal with that whole controversy. I mean, Jesus. You have, I don't know, there's a bunch of people in that division where, Michelle Piera, let me see where he is at. Here, give me 1 second. Let me look at the rankings here. It's crazy that he's only a welterweight. Let me see here. Okay. Michelle Pereira is 14 currently. Now that might change a little bit because he did pick up a good win, but hey, I think you have the Leech, you have Jeff Neal, Michael Chiesa, Neil Magny, Sean Brady. Those guys are all above him. Hey, you give him two of those guys. Any one of those two. See where he's at. Those are tough outs. If I was him, I'd probably go with Jeff Neal and the Leech, Lee Jiang. If I was him, I'll kind of try to stay away from a Neil Magny or Michael Chiesa because those are wrestler-heavy type of style of fighters and experienced big guys. So if I was Michelle Piera, I'll probably try to stay away from those guys, and I'll just go after the Leech and Jeff Neal. And I think a couple of those wins, good fights. Maybe we get a spectacular knockout. He could probably even jump a couple. He could probably jump either Neil Magny or Michael Chiesa and not even have to fight at least one of them. So I think that's he had a good performance. Ponzinibbio, I think Ponzinibbio is looking old. He's slowing down. I think he's 35. I think after his long layoff, his injuries, he was on a roll before that. It's unfortunate to see where he's at. I think he's 1-3 now, or 1-4. So it's kind of tough to see what's happening in Santiago Ponzinibbio. He looked like a number one contender, title contender at one point in his career. But after that long layoff, the injuries, I don't know. He hasn't really been able to put it together. Unfortunate for him. Because he's one of the few Argentinian stars that the UFC has. They don't really have a lot. Chidi Njokuani, 22-7, fantastic standing elbow knockout over Dusko Todorovic. He's the brother of Anthony Njokuani. So this guy's tall, athletic, skilled, dangerous. Obviously it looks like his weakness maybe is takedown defense, but he's such a big, long, lanky dude that helps him getting back up. And man, when he's on his feet, he's a dangerous out, man. He's a dangerous out. Yeah. Let's see what else. Tabitha Hisi picking up a victory over Polyana Viana. Wasn't it? I found it kind of weird. Polyana's demeanor in the cage before the fight. Look, she looks so reserved and not like a fighter at all. She's such a pretty girl and athletic, good physique. She's a fighter. She's a gamer for sure, but I don't know, a little too passive to be taken seriously. I don't know. That was just my opinion. Seeing her in the cage. Tabitha is just she's very active in the cage, very intense, super nice girl. Another beauty herself, fantastic physique. So it's good to see her picking up victories and putting things together. I think her stand-up is probably the only thing that she needs to really, really work on and putting everything together. But she's on her roll. Junior Park defeating Eric Anders by split decision. That was a close fight, but Junior Park making it happen. Biggest fight on the undercard, you had Jonathan Martinez and Chase Hooper both picking up victories. I thought it's good to see Chase Hooper. I think he's a fan favorite. People like him. The only thing is you got to win. And for a moment there, he was not. So this is a big victory for him. Puts him back on the path of staying in the view of the matchmakers and the good graces of Dana White for sure. Not too much in terms of fight news this week. You had a couple of fight announcements. Let me see here. On the boxing side, you have September 17th is the triple fight. It's the rubber match between Canelo and Triple G. So that's on September 13th. I don't know if they have a location set for that. Most likely going to be in Vegas. But that is September 17th. You have Khabib finally making some comments on Cain Velasquez's situation. I think he's planning to meet with Cain, try to meet with him in prison. Had some issues with the other person in question, the one who's who's being accused of the sexual acts against a family member of Cain's family member, him being out, the unfair treatment of Cain, and the lack of humility in this whole situation. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation, but you got to look at Cain's from Cain's side, and I mean it was I would probably argue lapse of maybe insanity, because who wouldn't be insane at that point? Something like that happened to you, you know what I mean? Or your family member, your child, you know what I mean? So it sucks. Let me see here. You have not much. Yeah, Shevchenko, I think she made some comments on Ara Hawani's show talking about the fact that it's very possible for her to fight for a bantamweight title by the end of the year. I hope that happens. I would like to see her against Pena or Nunes. I think that would be, I don't know, that'd be pretty exciting. I mean, that would put her in the GOAT status if she's able to maintain one of those. I think she beat Pena already. I thought the last fight with Nunes, I thought was super close. If a lot of people felt like she actually won that fight. So that would be super exciting if she could get that done. You had Masvidal responding to Michelle Pereira's comments about DMing his wife, when in fact it looked like Pereira's wife DM'd Masvidal and not in any scandalous way, but just sent him like some acknowledgement, tagged him in some post. He gave the whole, the prayer hands symbol emoji in response, and that was pretty much it. And Masvidal kind of put him on blast, saying like, you're putting your wife out there and her DMs out there to what? To get a fight with me? To jump 8 spots to fight me? You know what I mean? Like you're not even in the top 10. And so when Masvidal had receipts, man. It doesn't look good for Michelle Pereira in that sense. I mean, yeah, it is a little scandalous, a little to do something like that. Dustin Poirier has been in the news a lot, been talking a lot, asking for a fight, putting out his situation going on with the UFC matchmakers and the fact that he wants to fight ASAP against the top contenders, and they're not really giving him a whole lot of options. They gave him one top contender at the end of the year. A lot of people are thinking it's Beneil Dariush. He didn't want to wait that long. He wanted to fight. He doesn't want to fight Colby, but Colby, called him out. But then Colby's in a situation with Masvidal and those lawyers and his injuries or whatever. So there was also some talk. I'm not sure if it was on Morning Combat with Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell, but they talked about the fact that how can Colby, take this fight in the middle of a court situation where he's proclaiming that he's so injured that he can't, the damages he occurred with the Masvidal attack is preventing them from competing and this, and you know what I mean. So it's like it kind of puts that fight on ice, and the talks of him and Poirier fighting, and I don't see that actually happening. That's about it, in terms of fighting, in terms of the news and the stuff that's been making the rounds in the media in the early this week. There's not a lot, going back to open scoring, in the Holmes fight, I think that would be something that the UFC should really consider. I think giving the fighters the option to really know where they're at in the fight, I think is good. I think it's important for them. I think it's important for their corners to be like, to know where they're at. And why shouldn't they? The argument against it is like a lack of exciting fights towards the end. Like, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, if you know you're losing, you're gonna push harder. If you know you're winning, well, I mean, I don't see it I don't think it's that easy to avoid a fight. I mean, you know what I mean? So I don't know, when you have another trained killer coming after you in the last minutes of the last round because they know they're down, that to me, that makes an exciting fight. What are they going to do to end this round, or are they just going to accept defeat? You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think open scoring is a big thing. I think it should be considered. I think a couple of commissions, I think either Invicta played around with it, or one of the commissions out there is actually playing around with that idea. I would like to have an interview or talk to Andy Foster of that California Athletic Commission to see if they are willing to experiment with open scoring in some of the mid-tier promotions that come into the state. Maybe not UFC, but maybe a lower Bellator card, maybe an LFA, maybe a Cage Warriors, something like that. In that sense, I think, see if they're open to it. I think that'll be interesting. I think it'll answer a lot of questions and a lot of, instead of having the scandalous outcomes at the end of each fight, I think it'll be interesting to actually know where the fighters are. And betting wise, I think it'll make it more exciting, because if you're able to bet during a fight, if you know your fighter that you bet on is losing or winning, I mean, the betting lines will fluctuate, and go up or down for whatever fighter, and is maybe turning into the underdog now. You know what I mean? I think that would be interesting to see what happens with the betting lines if you have open scoring. I think I'll answer a few questions. You know what I mean? We could start there. I think it's a good start. We don't need to grill the judges or grill the refs just yet, but I think open scoring could solve a lot of questions. I'm sorry, something interesting to consider. I hope that happens in the near future. I think that'd be cool to see. Let me look at the boxing side. Gervonta Davis versus Rolando Romero is this coming weekend. We'll look at the fights this coming weekend. That's a big fight. I'm excited for that fight. I think that's the biggest fight of the weekend. That's for the WBA lightweight title. I think that those two fighters are just controversial. They are exciting. They're never involved in boring fights. I think it's going to be a great fight. I can't wait for it, honestly. I think it's by far the most exciting fight this weekend. That is on Showtime pay-per-view from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. I suggest all of you guys to catch that. You have 2 Cage Warriors events, both in England, Colchester, England. Yeah, Cage Warriors 137, 138. 137 features Matthew Bonner and Joel Kuja in the main event. You have Leon Alio and James Webb in the main event for Cage Warriors 38 the following day. That's May 27th, May 28th. As far as UFC goes, you have June 4th. That's the next UFC card. I don't believe there's a UFC card this weekend. Yeah, there's no UFC card this weekend. That Rosenstrike versus Volkov card is next weekend. So this weekend, Cage Warriors, and I highly suggest all of you guys to catch the Gervonta Davis versus Rolando Romero event this coming weekend from Brooklyn, New York. That's going to be exciting. That's the biggest event this coming weekend. As far as MMA goes, you don't have a lot, but a huge boxing fight. And yeah, I suggest you guys all to check that out. Go on YouTube. I think YouTube has the first episode of, it's kind of like their countdown show for this fight. Very exciting. Gives you a good idea of who these fighters are. I'm pretty sure they're going to come out with a couple more episodes maybe. I'm hoping at least one more. If not, I suggest you to watch that one. That's on Showtime. I believe their YouTube channel. Or if you have Showtime, just go on there and look up the fight. It has all the information for that. That's our show. I just wanted to get a good episode in, get in touch with everything, get in touch with you guys. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, share, comment, leave a 5-star review on Spotify, iTunes, you name it. Please push this episode, push this show. Come back. We're coming back probably. I'm going to try to get you an episode by the end of the week. Maybe Sunday night episode. Sounds good for you guys all? Huh? A Sunday night episode. And then we'll do another one midweek. I'm playing around with the idea, trying to find the time, trying to find the schedule where I can get 1 to 2 episodes a week. I'm going to try to get 2. Try to find a nice balance and get you guys 2 episodes a week. I think that'll be fun. So again, thanks all for joining me, listening, like, share, subscribe. Make sure you guys all do that, and I'll see you guys all next week.